And we're live. Thanks a lot, everybody, for coming by. My name is Kevin Wilson. I'm the host of the BMX Podcast, and we have Danny Pena. Ken Lowry's back for a third moto, I think it is. We're going to go to the main next time. Thanks, everybody, for stopping by. How you guys doing today?
Really good.
Nice.
We're hopefully I was working on my Wi-Fi last night with the cable company, so I think that we're going to be good. And I think that this may be the most technologically advanced episode that we've done. I don't normally record, so we're recording now for future posterity. But I appreciate you guys coming on. Danny Pena has joined me several times during the past. My pseudo co-host, and Ken Lowry. I brought him in for some technical advice because Ken's really technical on his parts and his knowledge. So I appreciate it, guys. You know, nice. I wanted to mention something that recently it was kind of cool. I think that you guys know that I've mentioned Mossy rides bikes a couple of times on the podcast, and I say how I've watched his videos. And I think it's pretty cool. I like his format, and he actually the other day I opened up my phone and he subscribed to my channel, so that was kind of cool. So I reached out. I said, "Hey, dude, I watch your channel all the time, man. It's pretty good. Keep up the good work." So I like his stuff. But I rewatched his Skyway video the other day. I watched it when he first posted it, but I watched it again, and I was like, dude, I forgot half the stuff that I watched the first time, and I'm glad I rewatched it. So I said, you know what? Maybe we could, maybe Danny and Ken and I, we could talk about a little bit about Skyway opening up today's show. So I appreciate it. Ken, you ever been on a Skyway? Are you like Danny? Are you Skyway lover, or you're not a big Skyway fan? Or what's your thoughts on Skyway?
Oh, I absolutely loved Skyway. I already had a bike at the time, frame and fork combination, so I wasn't going to swap out. But I was definitely very interested, especially that ovalized tubing, which actually gives you increased strength in certain directions. It can add weakness in some ways, but in the direction the frame was built, it actually adds stiffness. It's actually a really impressive design.
See, Ken, that's why I have you on, bro. I just go, it looks bitchin'. It keeps on, no. It's the strength and it's the design and all this stuff. So that's why I did Ken, man.
Well, it was talked about on the other podcast, the Mossy podcast, that the frame was more aerodynamic, which you might think doesn't really matter, but every little bit makes a difference. And once you're going about 25 miles an hour, it'll make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they blade road bike frames. They do the same with their forks. JMC, of course, was the first one that had the ovalized tubing.
Yeah.
No, I tend to agree with them on that, and I think what kind of turned me on to Skyway was the overall look of that. So that TA frame, this is 2017, but the one that came out in 1983, that was the one that I picked up. And it was all visual for me, seeing the aerodynamic tubing and the blade forks. And I seen one at a track, actually. I was at a local, and some guy was racing one. He was older than I was, and I couldn't take my eyes off it. I hadn't seen it in a magazine yet. And I'm like, what is that? And I was staring at his bike, and he caught me looking. He goes, take a picture, man. And I'm like, sorry, I just think your bike's cool, But yeah, so that's what got me going on that one. And I know that later on they developed the 300 TA, which is one of the topics we could talk about down later. But that came out in '88, and I think Skyway was trying to get with everybody else on a more modern frame and fork. But honestly, that one, I like that one way better, to be honest with you.
See, that's one of the things I want to talk about today, because I never realized until today that Skyway made two completes. I never knew that.
Yeah. They had the 300 TA. I think it's the 200 TA or something like that. It was
300 and the 400.
Okay, yeah. So I'm not too sure, because at that point I kind of moved on. I think I was riding like a Haro at that stage, but I think what I saw was Rick Palmer had joined Skyway late in the 80s. And the first time I saw him, he was on a TA, and he was with graphite tough wheels, the whole 9 yards, and it looked super cool. And I guess Rick felt that it was better for him to be on a bike that's more competitive with the bikes that were out at the time in the late 80s, and that's when they developed the 300 TA. And it was on a spoked wheel. It wasn't on a tough wheel.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a big difference. And to me, I thought the bike looks good. I mean, you guys, I don't know if you collect, Kent, but I know Kevin's a collector. Do you know what is the value of a 300 TA probably higher than a standard TA, or do you have any idea?
Me? No.
Yeah.
It would be an educated guess, really, at this point.
Yeah. Because I never see the 300s, never. So that's why I'm wondering if they're a little bit more rare.
Yeah.
Because there's
were you still in the game in '88, or were you moved on?
That was the last year I raced, is '88.
Last year your race was '88? Okay.
Right. Then I got back into it 96, 95, right in there, and took off again.
Were you a pro in '88, or were you like a 17 Rex?
Yep, I was.
Wow.
Yep. I remember racing Rick Palmer too.
Did you really?
Yep.
What was it like on your first pro race? Did you feel super intimidated, or was it an easy adjustment for you?
Well, so when I was racing, they didn't have an 18 expert class.
Okay.
So when you turned 17, that was your last year. After that, I kind of had the impression that if you didn't turn pro and you're still racing as an amateur and you're over 17, that's kind of like, what's up? Are you afraid? That kind of thing. But
yeah.
No, I wanted to race that #1 plate a little longer. So I did, I had a birthday change in April. And so I raced the rest of the year because I didn't want to just like get that number and then chuck it. Right. So then the next year I turned pro, and yeah, that's it. I loved it. I didn't seem to have any problem locally, although there's a little bit of intimidation to race some of the guys that were. But it's interesting. My first pro race was at Sumner, and there was like Troy Daniels, Bart McDaniels,
way back,
Clarence Perry, and it was a night race. And if I recall correctly, I won. I actually won.
Wow.
I was really fast. I was actually when I was ahead, I just remember the first getting out of the gate and being ahead of them. I was afraid I was going to get taken out. So I was really going faster than normal because I was scared. I'm not kidding. I was literally scared something happened. And it was like, people were like, dude, are you turning pro? I said, yes, I already turned pro. So
nice. Was there when you got into the pro level, did you have to go through the B pro, A pro phase, A pro, double A? Do you do you remember how that worked out?
Yeah, I don't remember the B pro when I was doing it. I thought that was an MBL thing. But
MBL thing, yeah.
Right. But no, I did do the A pro. I do remember my first A Pro National in Eugene, Oregon, and that's when I found out that when you turn pro, it's dirty. I'll just put it that way. I was entering turn one, the Clackamas track, the famous track with the big set of doubles. I'm on the inside. Somebody cuts inside of the cones, literally on the other side of the cones, rides me all the way out high on the first moto.
Wow.
No, there's only one pro main. They didn't have you running 3 yet.
Yes.
So there's only one pro main. I ended up with the third, and I had first, and I'm like, this is dirty, man. These guys are not like amateurs.
I think it's a different mindset with money involved, would you say? Like, because now there's cash, people are going to race a little bit differently. You think that was the motivation?
Well, I didn't have any problem in the motos. I just thought it was going to be just like the last motos. As long as I got the start, I do okay. Daryl Young was not there that weekend. He must have been at another national. He was the main guy I was worried about.
Yeah.
Young, because that guy was fast, real fast in those days. And I just remember being rode up really high. I never jumped those doubles. I always rode them. I do it in practice, but I'd never jump them in a race. I always felt like someone's going to butt me and I'm going to have like this horrible crash.
That was going to be a wrap.
Those things were huge. I mean, most people didn't jump them. Daryl just jumped them all the time.
Yeah.
I think they were like 28 feet across or 30. I heard rumors they were 30 feet.
That's insane.
It was.
Hey, sorry, Kevin, I got off topic, but I didn't realize Kent went pro.
Because I was scared every time I was in the lead. I was scared, no matter where it was, man. Because I knew that if I was in second, I was going to try to take out the dude in first place. So I was always worried that someone was going to try to take me out. And I raced my close friends every week. So we didn't have any problem. We didn't have no qualms about taking each other out. It wasn't like I was a stranger that we had to worry about. But so I can totally relate. Once you get out front, you're like, oh, shit, man. Something's not right, man. I shouldn't be in the lead. I better hurry up, man. So I can totally relate.
Have you guys ever heard of a Pro-Am?
Yeah, we talked about it last week. Yeah.
So I want to correct myself here. So that particular Wednesday night was a Pro-Am race. Mm-hmm. And I remember that Clarence Berry was getting a whole bunch of flack because Kent Lowry, this amateur, beat this pro. And so I remember him saying, well, if you think he's so slow, then you race him. And so then that was the next weekend, and I was expecting to be taken out. I was literally, I didn't admit it at the time, but I was spooked, man. As soon as I got it, it was like the cops were after me, you know.
What were you riding at the time, Kent, at that particular race? Do you remember?
Pro class wheels. I still had the frame that was too small. I had a Pro Magnum 2000 frame and JMC bars, Redline forks, my big chain, and 205 millimeter cranks. The whole.
How did you? That is ridiculously long, man. I would feel like my pedal was going to hit the ground.
Let me tell you, man. I could launch so hard. Just think, you got a 45 up front, and you're launching like it's a 43. So I always smoked anybody off the gate, as long as I could hold it by the turn one.
Could you spin that crank smoothly, or was that
your bike on the pedal and just let it like a kickstand, like there my bike.
Well, so I got big thighs and small calves, and my legs were long, and I kind of got a short torso, so I could easily spin those things. I didn't have a problem with it. Where the challenge was is if it was if there was a huge starting hill, then the long cranks didn't have a lot of benefit, and actually on a really fast track, they were actually a disadvantage. And so in the winter or at Sumner, because Sumner had kind of this, it was a hill, but it wasn't very steep. It was kind of a gradual long hill. And so you had to have a lot of strength off the line to get a good start on that track.
That's crazy, because I interviewed Terry Tennant last summer, and he talked about his crank length, and he ran big cranks too, but I don't know if they were as long as yours, but he ran long cranks, but he told me that he's on 175s or 180s now, because he said his knees won't let him spin that big crank anymore.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, but he was known for the long cranks and the long rear end on his bike. So his bike had this crazy wheelbase on it in the, I guess it would be late 80s, early 90s. So Terry was kind of like fast forward for a lot of the other guys. He was kind of thinking forward. And the way he explained it to me, which I thought made a lot of sense, was if you see a skier going downhill, they're using, short skis, and the cross country is like the longer skis. So he's like, you want the quickness with the short skis. The way I'm probably not explaining it right, but he broke it down pretty well, but he did talk about the crank length though.
So what I actually did is a lot of people would change gears. I didn't change gears. I changed cranks based on the track. I left the gear the same, and I'd either run 192s, 205s, or sometimes rarely would I change the gear, but usually I changed the crank if it was a track that didn't have a lot of hill.
Were you
185s were like the longest anybody rode, right? I mean,
that's what I was going to say. Yeah.
If you had 185s, those things were long.
I ran 190s profiles. Once I got out of the one-piece crank thing, I just ran 190 profiles, because See, I started pumping iron because I recognized that even with the long cranks, a lot of the other guys were starting to get bigger.
Yeah.
And, you know, I realized that I need to do something to get the edge. And so I started pumping iron, and then I didn't need those big cranks. My thighs were going to cover it. So I just went to the 190s.
How tall are you, Kent?
5'8".
So you're about average height. So you're going against guys that are pretty big though, especially in the 80s.
Yeah, I mean, Ellis was like 6'2.5", 6'3". Clarence Perry was like 6 something. One of my local, most guys, I don't know, I was probably right in there.
Yeah, because they got up there. The 80s, it was all about muscle back then, you know, with Sean Texas, Pete Lonkarovich, Stu Thompson, just big, broody guys that were up there. So it must have been difficult to deal with that. At least I would think so, you know. I've never raced pro, though I couldn't tell you.
I remember racing Charles Townsend when he was an amateur. I remember racing Steve Veltman.
Wow.
That was way back. Yeah, those guys were. You didn't want to be in their moto. You're probably going to play second behind them. I mean, but you know, it was good. It was good exposure. It depended on my mood. You know, it's amazing how you're. You know, did you get a good breakfast? Do you feel confident? You know how it is. You show up the racetrack. Sometimes you just feel like you're having a slow day, and you just don't feel like. And there's other days you just feel invincible. And on those days, well.
Remember we were talking about that, Kevin, a few episodes back. I was talking about the rider high. You know how you can get that rider high like a runner's high. And I know exactly what Kent's talking about because I've actually talked myself out of winning. I'm like, oh, I feel weak. I don't feel strong. I'm tired. And you just talk yourself right out of it, you know, before the gate even drops.
That's why I always rode my my Mongoose with tough wheels for practice around the trails. So then when I got on my race bike, it felt really light. So it helped my confidence.
Well, that's a good lead. That's a good lead to our topic, Kevin, with the Skyway stuff.
He's like running a marathon. He just handed you the baton, Danny.
Yeah, he did. So we were talking about Mossy's video, and it was all dedicated to Skyway. And I wrote down a few topics for us to go over and things I didn't even know. I didn't realize Skyway started in 1963. I don't know if you guys knew that or not.
Well, they were doing stuff that wasn't BMX stuff. So
right, it was like a machine shop thing, I think is kind of what they were doing. And they were across the street from the airport, which Kevin brought up to me before, which was called Skyway. That's how they came up with the name for Skyway Recreation. Now we have a dispute though. We don't know if they did anything with motorcycle wheels, Kevin. What's the story on that?
So, okay. I misunderstood the original, the first time I watched it, I thought he said that they tried to make a tough wheel for a motorcycle, but it was too hot and they gave up.
Right.
But then after I posted that video, probably, I don't know what, 6 months ago, I since that time I had friended a gentleman that he's probably in his 70s at this point. I've tried to get him on the podcast, but he was the plant manager for Skyway. And he's told me, he goes, no, dude, they never tried to make a tough wheel for a motorcycle. So I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. I thought that they did. And then when I watched it again today, they said that they thought about briefly about making a tough wheel for a motorcycle, but they didn't do it. They went with the BMX bike, the BMX wheel. So that was the I was wrong again, dude. Always wrong.
Skyway Tough Wheel 1, released in 1974, and I was watching his video. I was looking at the price point for it. I was like looking really close. Looks like it went from $19.95 to $21.95 per wheel. So that was in 1974. I mean, I was only 4 years old. So, but I can tell you that was probably kind of pricey for a wheel set at the time. I don't know what you guys think about that. But by today's standards, I think you can get a set of Skyways from Planet BMX for less than $100 or around $100 price point.
$99.
Yeah. So it's not that bad at all. And
so you're saying 74 or 70? Wait, it came out in 74. The Tough Wheel.
Tough Wheel 1.
So what was a spoked wheel going for in 74? Was it more than $30 a wheel?
I doubt it, because back then, I mean, most of the wheels were this cheap, mild steel, and there was one wheel that was called like a heavy duty wheel, which was pretty much just steel. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, Ken.
Yeah.
It was a really heavy wheel.
Yeah, it basically had heavy duty spokes, really large diameter spokes.
That's
Chrome.
it.
They were chrome. They were just slightly wider. They actually looked like a super heavy duty Super 7X.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. And there's like a seam that kind of goes down the middle of the wheel. So it kind of comes up to a point. And those were kind of the best wheels at the time in the 70s.
But
they were heavy duty wheels. I don't know who made them, though. I have no idea.
Weld.
Weld made those?
Wald. Was that sound right?
I think. I just remember them. I had a set of them with a coaster brake on one of my early BMX bikes. And those things were indestructible. They're heavy, but they're pretty much indestructible. Then, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to tell you that the colored Tough Wheels didn't come out until 3 years later. So 1977 is when they started dropping the colored Tough Wheels, which I thought was interesting because I thought they just came that way. I just thought they all came in colors, but it was just black for about 3 years, and now the colored ones now we know how popular the colored ones are. Not with the racers, but go ahead, Kent.
So I got a set of blue Tough Wheels from the bike factory, and I want to say that was in 1980 or 81. Okay. So, and yeah, I loved them. They were heavy, but they didn't bend.
You mentioned that you practiced on the Tough Wheels. Did you ever race them before you decided this is just going to be a practice wheel?
I raced before you didn't like them.
I raced one moto just to have fun because it was a local race. I pretty much dominated my class. It was an amateur class at the time, and so I showed up with my beater bike, which was a Mongoose, super heavy seat post. The thing weighed literally probably 31 pounds. I did everything to make it heavy. I just remember snapping out the gate with it. Everybody thought my bike got stolen. But I just did it just to see if I could beat my competition with a heavy bike. And I just remember going to snap out of the gate. It's like I just kind of stayed there with my tire in the air and everybody just took off. It was so heavy.
Oh, I've raced with Tough Wheels on and off. I love the look of them. That's why I kept throwing them back on my bike. I'm like, I'm going to try it again.
Maybe I never better this time.
What's that now? Yeah, maybe I'll be better this time. Yeah, I had some moments with them, but I wasn't like, I always remember going, I'm going to put my rims back on. I remember thinking that all the time, although they look super trick. I can't deny that.
So mine had a coaster brake on it. And then later, either it was an option, you could order them that way. You could order them with a freewheel.
Okay.
That came later, I think.
Yeah. I think that was, I don't know if that was, I know you can get a freewheel on a Tough One, but I don't know if it was a kit that you had to buy and put the freewheel on and remove the coaster brake. And
I think it was
like
probably
that they sold kits where you could convert them.
I think that's right. I remember that.
I have personally never seen a Moto Mag with a freewheel on it. I've never seen it.
Well, I tried to convert my Moto Mags. And I think I screwed it all up, and I gave up, and I threw them away. I just bought different wheels. But I tried to have it on there. I was like, I was like a 13 or 14-year-old kid trying to do all these, intricate hub design, trying to put it there. It wasn't going to work.
Yeah. What were you going to say, Kent?
Oh, I just remember people doing the same thing, taking all the guts out, trying to get it converted, or taking their Tough Wheels to the bike shop, and they couldn't do anything for them.
Yeah, because I rode a set of Tough Ones on my first bike. My first race bike was a borrowed Mongoose with blue Tough Wheels on it, like yours, Ken, and it had a coaster brake on it, and that was, I didn't care. I was just happy to be racing. And they said that Schwinn jumped on board right around 77 or 78, and they started selling completes with Tough Wheels on it. So that was the first ones to kind of jump on board. But you can see it did continue to go on. I mean, this is a Haro ad from 83, and you can see the completes. One of them comes with Tough Wheels, and then one with looks like Z rims. So what's that now?
No, I remember that.
So I think there was other bicycle companies that got involved with that, and I know there was a lot of knockoff Skyway Tough Wheels. Like you could see them on store-bought bikes. Yeah,
and they would. I remember those too, and they would fade in the sun and change colors really quickly where the Tough Wheel brand actually held up.
Yes, and most of the time I can kind of spot a fake one because it has mounts for reflectors on them. You're like, well, Skyway Tough Wheels don't come with it. Yeah. So you can kind of spot them. It said that they were in Glendale. Skyway was in Glendale, California at one point, and then eventually moved to Redding. Yeah. I don't know when they actually did that, but they didn't release the Skyway Tough Wheel 2 until 1979, and that's the one that stands today. But with the only big difference is they don't have, unless you want it with the metal flange, they're going to come with the plastic flange now. So it doesn't show the metal flange anymore. And the Campy hubs were, I didn't know this till I watched this video. Campy hubs were actually a road racing thing, the Campy hub, and they converted it for BMX. And apparently they were very brittle, and eventually they just had to get rid of that altogether. I didn't know that. That's all new to me. I've heard the term Campy hubs. That's it.
I thought that was fascinating because I remember the early days of the BMX in the early 80s. I'm going to say like 80, 81, 82. And it was actually hard to find a set of steel bearing hubs for a BMX bike. And I just remember guys like Bart McDaniels and Gary Ellis, they had these super highly polished Canon, those hubs. And they were like unusually, they looked like they were slightly wider and the flanges were kind of halfway between a large flange and a small flange hub. They were always highly polished. They looked so awesome.
Yeah. I think Kevin had mentioned to me before, he didn't care about the high-end parts. Like, I don't care what hubs they are. I don't care what cranks they are. I mean, can you elaborate on that, Kevin?
Well, I just thought it was a sucker bet. I always thought that if I can beat you on one-piece cranks, I'm going to beat you on one-piece cranks. And I never really I didn't race any huge races really, but locally I could win on one-piece cranks. So I said, why would I bother buying three-piece cranks if I could beat you on one-piece cranks? Until I broke my cranks, obviously.
Yeah. I got a story for you. So when I first came back into racing, there was a state championship race at relatively my local track, which was Sumner. And I ended up winning the race, my pro race. And I remember a certain competitor came up to me and said, I can't believe I got beat by a guy with one-piece cranks. He was just like looking at my bike on one-piece cranks. He couldn't believe it because everybody had three-piece cranks.
Yeah. Everything
about my bike looked like it came out of a time warp from 1980. And here it is, 1997. So hilarious. Or actually, that was 95, but yeah.
I mean, I've gone through both phases of that. Go ahead, Kev.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Talking about the graphite Tough Wheels, have you ever seen the Perry Kramer Dirty Knobs episode where he talks about the Tough Wheel?
Yeah, actually, I did. Yeah, I did check that out.
I guess had some. I'm paraphrasing here, but apparently he had some sort of a sponsorship with Skyway, and he tried to ride two Tough Wheels, and he's like, I can't do it, man. These things are too. I don't like him. And then they said, well, how about if you run one Tough Wheel? And he's like, what? So he ran. That's why he always, in a lot of his pictures, he only has a front Tough Wheel on. And then
I remember that.
Yeah. And then he said, and then he told him, he goes, the only way I can't ride them with the way that they're currently set up, and that's why they came out with the graphite Tough Wheels to satisfy Perry. Apparently.
Yeah.
Perry wanted. Right. Am I saying this right, Danny? And then Perry said, they said, what kind of hubs do you want? And Perry said, I want Campy hubs in it. And that's why they used Campy. And do I got the story right?
Yeah, the only thing I understand differently is he did run the one Tough Wheel in the front, but he did that without permission, so they didn't give him his contingencies because he wasn't running the set. So he was supposed to run the set, and he ran the front wheel or the front Tough and put a wheel on the back, and they were like, You got to run.
Some comments, and people are saying the reason why he's got one in the front so he can T-bone people and he doesn't bend his spokes.
That could be it, man. Yeah. Did you know that the graphite tough wheel was based on the Smokey and the Bandit Trans Am?
I
The
heard
black and the gold. Yeah, that's where they got the idea. Because remember, Smokey and the Bandit was
Oh yeah.
77, 78. So
Yep.
that movie was massive, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
all of a sudden, everybody wanted that Trans Am, and that color combination is what inspired them to make that hub gold against the black, which I think to this day is still one of the nicest looking wheels. Is a pair of graphite tough wheels. I've never even owned a set. Yeah.
I remember when they came out, I was interested in them, the graphite ones.
Yeah.
Because I remember Richie Anderson had some, Clarence Perry had them, but when I found out they were $249 a pair, something like that. $249 was a huge amount of money back then, at least for someone who still lives at home.
You nailed it, because the next thing I was going to say was the set of those wheels were $249.99 in 1980 or whatever, and they thought that they weren't going to be able to sell them. They're like, "There's no way we're going to sell a set of wheels for $250," and they sold out in a couple of hours. So the minute they released them, they were just gone like that. That's crazy, yeah.
It is crazy, because I just remember that those wheels were worth more than my whole bicycle.
Exactly, yeah.
Wow, if I had those wheels, my bike would be worth like almost $900, or not, something like that.
Well, my JMC Andy Patterson the frame cost me like $150, dude. It was like $200 for the frame and forks and $85, I think.
That's a lot for frame and fork back then. And that would have been a hard sale to tell my mom and dad, I need $250 for a set of wheels. They'd have been like, hell no.
So I got a story for you on these tough wheels. So
okay.
I remember at a race, a national, Clarence Perry was at a national. He had these tough wheels. I think there was a couple other competitors that had tough wheels. And I remember this conversation where Clarence was privately, I don't know if he was sponsored by them or not, but
he had the patch on his jersey, so he had a co-sponsor from them.
I remember, it wasn't an official conversation, but I remember overhearing him talking to a competitor, because I was, coming over to look at his bikes, and he said, I don't know yet. I'm just getting used to these things. And he said they flex in the corners. He could feel those things flex quite a bit. He said they flexed enough, because he was a heavy guy. They flexed for his brakes. He said I could feel the brakes being.
Wow.
Brake rub?
He said they were really flexy, a lot flexier than than the non-graphite ones. So.
And you got to think, though, Clarence is kind of like above average as far as height and weight and power.
I think he was like 230 pounds or something back then. He looked like a bodybuilder. He was just tough.
Well, Dirty Fest 1, I had Repop tough wheels on my Powerlite P51.
Okay.
And I one race, I got on the gate, and I you stare at your front tire when you're on the gate, right? I'm staring at my front wheel, and I'm kind of doing the shimmy a little bit, and I can see my front wheel doing this, dude. Oh, like, oh man, dude, it was crazy. It was, I'm bigger. At the time I was 270. 270. And
you were
Huh?
Okay, so you were heavier than Clarence.
Yeah, I'm even heavier now.
Got to keep hitting the boxing bag, dude. The heavy bag.
I work out, I lift, and I get bigger, but I'm not losing any weight, man. Anyways, dude. So what else did you guys notice in that video?
Well, we talked about the Skyway dropping in 1983. Interesting to know that the weight of the frame was like 4 pounds 2 ounces, which is pretty good.
Heavy, dude. Don't you think
well, for 83, that's not too bad. It's a fully chrome moly frame, and the forks were 1.8. So you figure you're about 6 pounds for frame and fork. 1983. That's not too bad. When I put my bike together in 84 is when I got my first Skyway. There was a noticeable difference on how light the bike was. But I was running spoked wheels, not tough wheels. So when I picked it up, it felt lighter, felt considerably lighter.
My frame and fork weighed 3.7 pounds.
That's light. What was the frame again?
That's is a Pro Magnum.
Pro Magnum. Okay.
Yeah.
I've never even heard about that frame, dude.
It wasn't like a major mainstream frame, but I know I've seen it in magazines, so
Yeah.
I'd recognize it when you said it.
I seen it in the BMXer, but it was a pro frame, but it was still like by the late '90s standards, it was almost like an expert.
Yeah.
Just barely an expert. So it was lighter because of that reason.
Do you have any idea, Kent, what like a carbon fiber frame and fork is going to weigh nowadays? Any idea?
That's a good question. I did see somebody. I remember a carbon fiber frame, BMX frame that showed up at the trails. This guy was riding it. Somebody with a lot of money. And I picked up the bike, and I had already done everything to make my bike light, titanium axles and seat rail. Even changed out my bolts and my stem to titanium.
Right.
Damn, dude.
His bike was still a good 1.5 pounds lighter than my bike.
Wow.
So I'm going to guess that the carbon fiber frame was 1.5 pounds lighter, but as hard as I was on bike frames, I wouldn't have dared to race a carbon fiber frame.
Yeah. I think Terry has so many bikes, Terry Tennant, and when I interviewed him, he had a Race Inc., the newest one, carbon fiber. Yeah, and he was testing it out. Like I think Toby Henderson hooked him up with the frame, and he brought it to a state qualifier at my track in Manteca, California. And anyway, when I was talking to him, he said, "Hey, can you bring my bike over here because I want it in the frame of the interview?" And I said, "Yeah." And I picked it up, and I was like, "God dang! I mean, it's light, man. It's feathery light. It's weird. Like it's that light. It was kind of shocking to me." But I remember as a kid if we go back all the way to the early 80s, the first time I felt a quality race bike, my cousin had a early Patterson. It was the same scenario. He said, "Hey, can you pick up my bike, Danny, and bring it over by the truck?" It was the first time I felt how light a BMX bike could actually be. I grabbed it. I was like, holy moly. Remember he was using the alloy cranks and all that crap. So it wasn't the strongest, but it was super light.
What year are you talking, Danny?
Say again?
What year are you talking about when this happened?
81, maybe.
Dude, I was still on my Jag.
Were you really?
Mags, dude.
Yeah. Well, ironically, he went from a Mongoose Motomag, which he tricked all out. My cousin George is the one that got us all into racing. So he had a Mongoose Motomag, and he slowly tricked it out till it was all, array of wheels, aluminum cranks, or the anodized Sagino cranks, you know what I'm talking about? TRX forks. He changed everything about the bike, and it was pretty light. Then eventually he bumped up. He got the Patterson frame, and then he swapped out all the parts onto the Patterson, which essentially he has both bikes put away still. He still has them, and he won't let me touch them. I'm like, dude, we can sell those. He's like,
you sold your PK rubber for $500, man.
I know. Don't take my advice on that one. Yeah, but yeah, that was the first time I felt the difference on those, and I thought my Skyway felt light, but now the Kent said his frame was lighter. Well, whatever.
Yeah, my frame or my bike, I got it down to about 24.5 pounds.
That's light.
That was as light as I could get my chrome alloy frame. The heavy components were the crank. The fork had to be strong, a full-size Pro stem, and I always ran either JMC bars or GT 065 bars. I didn't like bars that I could feel flexing on the gate.
How did you like the JMC bars as far as the rise, the width, everything? Was that?
What I really liked about the JMC bars is that the grips were out a little bit more, not like a Power Light, with the bend on the, but they were straighter. So if you had an ESP stem, which was longer than a Pro Neck stem, and you had a steep head tube angle frame, and you had a set of JMC handlebars, you were already 2.5 inches further ahead than all your competitors on the gate, just the handlebars.
Nice.
And that really sucked your competitor next to you, because they're like, you're already ahead of me. We're on the gate.
How did you like them, Kevin, the JMC bars? How did you feel about them?
I don't remember what bars I had before I had JMC bars. I can't remember what I had. It may have been GT. I don't know. But I remember when I had my reach, I can't remember. I was thinking about it today, like what bars do I have on my reach, and I can't remember. But I remember when I went to go buy my Daryl Young, and I was picking out the frame and fork, and then I go, well, I might as well get the JMC bars because they match. Okay, I'll try it out. They look small. I was like,
okay.
They look small to me, but okay, I'll try them out. I got on them, dude, and I loved them, dude. I never changed another handlebar for the longest time, dude. For my entire time racing, I was on JMC bars. They were the best. I mean, they were, and they looked so cool. And I fell in love with them. Dude.
Did they have the flat top bar? The crossbar was flat.
It was like going out on a date with an ugly woman and then falling in love with her after you took her out. That's what happened to me. I was like, dude, she's hot.
So let me answer your question, Pena, about the handlebars. So there was one thing I also liked about the JMC handlebars. If you looked at all of the other manufacturers, the welding on those JMC bars was really nicely done on that crossbar. So the crossbar was slightly fatter on the top, and it tapered out a little smaller on the bottom. And what I loved about them is I could stick my bike pad on it with my flight brand name right there, and it wouldn't spin because it was oval. So it always kept right where I wanted it. But the one thing I didn't like about the early production GMC bars was, so everybody's had a chance to go a little far in a set of doubles, and your handlebars end up moving forward a bit. So I'd get them back and I just tighten them up. I'd always use a cheater bar to get those bolts nice and tight. And after a while, they'd loosen up. So I'd tighten them down some more. And I realized I was actually crushing the tube.
I've done that. Yeah.
And I really started to crack, starting to form. And so the newer JMC bars were a little thicker, a little bit heavier, and they didn't do that as much. So
that's pretty cool. Like, as far as handlebars are concerned, I think if I had to say what my favorite bars were, I mean, I'm not talking about modern race bars now because they have much lower rise, but I really like the Boss handlebars. And the Boss handlebars had the kind of the knee saver shape where they come in very narrow. Yeah. And they were kind of tall, but I put a set of Boss bars on my Skyway. I was running CW handlebars for like the longest time. And then I finally felt like they were, because I was running the standards, not the pros. So they felt kind of small. So I switched over to Boss bars. I was about 15 or 16. And I was like, oh my God, these bars are amazing. And I went through 2 sets of those. So those are the only ones I ever like repeated in using. After that, I've had a bunch of different handlebars. So I wasn't very consistent with it. But I would say if I had to pick a favorite, that would probably be the one. I don't know if you guys ever rode those, but they were great.
I can't even tell you what they look like, actually.
I do remember a guy that showed up at the local track, and his thing was every single piece of tubing on his bicycle had to be ovalized. So he had the JMC handlebars, Skyway frame and fork, and then those rims, they weren't made, I don't know if they were made by 7X, but they were kind of oval shaped.
Yukai
rims. So he had a set of those on them, and I don't know what he had for cranks, but he had every oval part you could buy.
This is I'm just trying to help you out a little, Kevin. This is what a Boss bar looks like, if you can see it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a Boss bar. And then I'll look up your guy.
That's a race bar?
That's a race bar, yeah. And then you guys were talking about JMC bars, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can get an image of that really quick, because in my mind I can see them. Oh, this is it right here.
Yeah.
Those are the ones. Yeah, those are super trick looking, by the way. Yeah, I love those.
Then they came 28 inches wide. You didn't have to cut them. Remember, the rule was you couldn't have a set of bars that were wider than 28 inches.
Okay, I do remember that. Yeah.
You didn't have to cut them. They were the right length from the.
Whoa! Wait. Who had the rule that you couldn't have more than 28 handle width? Was that ABA?
ABA, I believe.
That was an ABA rule. Your handlebars could not be wider than 28 inches. And there was a time at Nationals going through checking or, to get your check sticker at a National, they come out, especially the older guys, He'd put a tape across those handlebars, and if they were too long, because
You
guys
had to get through bike inspection. I remember that bike inspection.
Wow, dude.
There's guys that put a little short piece of wood on the end of their handlebars, mill it down, and tap it in, bring it out to 30. They get caught every time.
Wow, I remember that rule. I just completely forgot about it. Man, these bars don't go cheap, guys. These are a set of JMC handlebars on eBay is $250.
No,
So
that's starting bid. They're $1,000.
Get out of here.
No, easily. I sold I had a pair of JMC Daryl Young bars maybe 4 years ago, and I sold them for $700, and they were crimped on the. But we're just like Ken was saying. If they weren't crimped, I could have got $1,200 for them. They're probably more now.
What about the frame and fork though? Like let's say an Andy Patterson frame and fork now.
6,000, 7,000.
Oh, for real.
If you can find someone that wants to sell it.
This reminds me of Microsoft stock. When Microsoft first started, it looked like it would be just a waste of money to invest in it. Now I'm thinking I could have bought all these cheap BMX bikes way back, put them in my garage up in the attic, and then pulled them down for $1,000 a shot, you know?
Dude,
for real.
I sold a Daryl Young frame, Survivor, $2,000. This was 4 years ago.
Just the frame?
Just the frame. I sold the forks for $1,000. I sold the bars for $700.
What's the attraction for these guys? Is it just to have it because it's not considered rideable? So I mean, what is it? Just a collectible?
There's probably, I don't know, I'm guessing maybe 4,000 Daryl Youngs made around there.
Okay.
There's only 333 Andy Pattersons ever made.
Wow. I did not know that.
Andy Patterson's so expensive. So there's only 333 of them ever made. So I think there was more Andy Patterson forks. It gets crazier because I don't really know. I've seen people, but I think there's micro variations between Daryl Young forks, regular JMC forks, and Andy Patterson forks that I don't even know what they are, but there's slight differences. And it could go from like a Daryl Young fork for $1,000, and then an Andy Patterson fork for $1,500 or $1,200 or $1,300. Oh. It's crazy, dude. And same with the bars.
Is there anything, Kent, that you regret selling or something? If you could get one thing back, what do you think that would be out of all the stuff that you've raced or owned?
It'd be interesting to find out what an ESP stem is worth, because I ended up trading one of those things off a long time ago. And I can tell you what, that's more rare than anything we've talked about.
ESP?
Yep, an ESP stem.
Was that stem fully chromed?
No, some of them came highly polished aluminum. They were never chrome. Okay.
Because that's what I'm envisioning, but it is probably aluminum. That would be the only thing you'd want back?
Well, no, actually, I wouldn't mind having my old frame back. I had a cast-in pro frame, and it's a square back. I went online, saw one for sale for like $850.
That's not bad, actually. That's the ESP stem right there. If you guys could see it.
Bring it a little closer. Yep, that's it.
That's the one.
Now, let me tell you, there's a short one and there's a long one.
This one looks pretty long. You know what I mean?
The guys who ran them was Clarence Perry, Gary Ellis. I ran them, Marty Enid, and I'm not sure who else ran them, but yeah.
Yeah, those look like that looks like a very rare piece right there.
Also,
this guy's selling his for $549, just the stem.
Yeah.
Damn, that's crazy.
Can I ask a silly question? Is that Eddie Sigmund product? Is that ESP?
No, it's I used to know what it's three guys' initials.
Okay.
I don't know. I could look it up, but I'd have to research that one. But yeah. Oh, Kevin, we're bumping up against 7 o'clock. We got another one of these to do.
I just texted him right now. He's okay. He's
All
okay.
right. Okay. No problem.
I got another thing I wanted to mention back on the Tough Wheels.
Yeah.
So because of the flex, I was talking to Clarence about this many years ago, and there was a little bit of a discussion about whether there would be a 24-inch Tough Wheel, but because of the flex issues and the weight, even in graphite, I think that's why it never happened.
Well, they're currently out now. I think Richie Anderson debuted the first set. Yeah, Richie Anderson was racing it in, 85. I think he was the first one to bring it out, a 24-inch Tough Wheel.
Boy, I don't remember ever seeing him.
Yeah, I could see if I could find an image for you, but he was
24.
Yeah, it was a big wagon wheel, man. I still don't really like the way they look, to be honest with you.
Maybe I saw him, and I just don't remember. I never caught on.
Yeah, I wouldn't have paid attention to it anyways, but yeah.
Yeah, it has more spokes than, let's say that. Well, definitely because it's a bigger wheel, but they look like wagon wheels.
I do remember that now. Yes.
Yeah.
Him at an indoor race in the winter. But they already flexed a lot. Then the Z rim came out, and the Z rim was pretty cool.
Yeah.
They flexed a lot too. But what was nice about them is your tire spread out a little wider, because they were actually wider than a standard rim, just a little bit.
Yeah.
And you never got flat spots in them.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You wouldn't, like aluminum rims. You'd get a flat spot. You could land really hard. You'd never break them.
Yeah.
And you never have
loose all the time, though.
It also affects your gear ratio, too, because your tire is a little smaller because it's stretched out wider. You could actually feel the difference. Because I ran for the longest time a Z-rim in the back and a Super 7X up front.
Did you really?
Yep. It looked kind of weird, but I did it because my other wheel had too many flat spots.
Wow.
You did not care about Frankensteining your bikes together, obviously. You're like, whatever worked, you just put it on there, huh?
Oh, my bike was always weird. Crazy long cranks.
Yeah.
And, fat chain, really huge chain, Acme chain. People love that. And then, of course, my mismatch of components.
Danny, after I dropped Kent's original video, someone sent me a message saying that they know where his 205 millimeter cranks are.
No way.
Yeah.
And by the way, there's only one set of those in the world. So how much are those worth?
Wow.
He's like, no shit. I remember Kent. I think I have his cranks.
No way. That's crazy, man. Yeah, the last thing I got for the Skyway topic is the Skyway Street Beat, which is their freestyle bike, was the first complete. But Kevin, I think you touched on that. It came out before the 300 TA. And then, of course, they were very successful in the wheelchair market. I mean, that's where they're huge, is the wheelchair market. And the company itself sold in 2017 to a company called CEW. And they still have ownership of it. They're now out of Indiana. And you can still buy Skyway products to this day. So the stuff is really cool. I mean, the Skyway TA frame and forks, when they drop on Planet BMX, they're gone, man. If you want one, you got to get one. Like right away. I've been trying to get a chrome 20-inch version of this bike because I wanted to build a chrome one with graphites. And they're just gone. As soon as they drop them, they're gone. So that's kind of like what I had my eye on as far as what I want to build next. But the Tough Wheels, man, they got them in abundance, man. The only thing that doesn't stick very long are the graphites with the flanges. Those go quick. Yeah. But that's all I got, gentlemen.
Well, I wanted to talk. I want to bend Kent's here real quick, and you too, Danny, because there's certain parts that I've always liked, I enjoyed, and I never really changed them up. Like you change your frame, forks, or whatever, but I always had there was always certain parts that I always had to have. And, it was like a Cashmax Aero seat, Shimano DX pedals, and Comp 3. Actually, I ran fake Comp 3 tires. I didn't even want to spend the money on a real Comp 3. Well, so I just wanted to kind of push that back on you guys. Were there certain parts that you guys couldn't live without, no matter what happened, whatever came out, whatever new trick or whatever new part came on the market that you said, no, I'm sticking with this?
Yeah, definitely Cachemet seats, but I love the Cachemet seat that, that has that's all curved. But before that, the original one that was just smooth and round in the back, I love that seat. I ran that seat forever. Amy Tri grips were always the grips I went with. Always. I mean, very rarely I ran anything else. And Comp 3 tires, definitely ran those. Araya 7X was my wheel of choice. And then Sun Tour, Bear Trap pedals, favorite pedals.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Those were my favorite pedals. And then, let's see, there was a lot of stuff. Oh, and of course, Diacomp MX something or other brakes. I forgot. Yeah, I forgot the number, but I think those were all my go-tos. If that helps, And I got one pair of profile cranks when I was about 15, and those went on every single bike that I ever. Once I got them once, I kept moving them. And that's it for me.
That's how I was. The profile cranks, they went from bike to bike as long as they didn't break anything.
Yeah.
And the Cashmax seat, yep, I had that. I wish it came in titanium rails. Eventually, I got rid of that. Bought myself a road bike seat that weighed like absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Another thing that I always kept with me was my Acme chain.
That's your go-to right there.
Yeah, because it was super thick. It looked really cool. It had rollers inside, and so it had less rolling resistance than any other chain I ever had. But it was a little bit heavier, but it was this trick.
I got a question, Kent. You're kind of a techie guy, so what do you think of the belt drive for BMX? Do you think that was a bad idea? Do you think that could be done? Because I understand a belt's going to run smoother than a chain, but that never took off. And I know that it was out. Somebody had it.
Yeah, I remember that came out. I also remember the elliptical gear that made your pedal come up faster right into your power position.
Wow.
I don't know if you never saw the elliptical gear. It's kind of like an oval. And so
like a mountain bike, they put it on BMX.
Yeah. Wow.
I do remember that. Yeah, it didn't catch on. I never had a chance to ride one, but I know that it felt kind of weird. There's something about the pulse action. You're better off having that consistent rotation than that kind of jerky feeling you got with that oval.
Yeah.
But so one of my go-tos was, at this point, everything had to be sealed bearing. So I had a set of pro class wheels. And so those things kind of went from bike to bike until they got too banged up to keep them. But I also used to have a dial comp, with a little black knob where you could just adjust your brake setting real easily.
Yeah,
Remember
that I remember, yes.
And as long as you kind of helped it turn the parts, the ferrule and the plastic at the same time, you wouldn't strip it out. But I had one of those that was chrome plated. I absolutely loved it. Another go-to was I was into lightness. So my cheap little brake lever, I think it was an MX brake lever, I actually drilled holes in it to make it lighter. It also made it grippier, so your fingers wouldn't slide on the grip.
Oh, really?
But it would wear out your index finger just a little faster.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That is funny, man. That's great.
Sorry about, dude. That's yeah. Wow. That's very cool, dude. That you got that into it. I just ran stock stuff, man. I never altered nothing.
Oh yeah, I cut off the axles, make them shorter. Aluminum spoke nipples, short spoke nipples, double butted spokes, tape around the rim, titanium bolts. Take out the steel bolts and change your stem bolt.
No wonder your bike costs $900, man. Holy cow!
Yeah, it was live. Some of my other parts was I liked the bear trap pedals, but once I went to the platform pedal, I noticed I didn't roll them as much.
Okay.
So yeah, I had some GT pedals that were platform. Those were nice. They used to be really tall, but I'd take a round file, and I'd file them down to make them sharp. Remember those days? You'd file your pedals to make them. Yep.
Just don't catch that to the shin, whatever you do.
Yeah. I raced with soccer shin pans or shin pads underneath my racing clothes, just for that reason.
Yeah.
Those
I've caught a couple to the shin, man. That's a pain I never want to wish on anybody. What about, have you ever done that, Kev? Like,
nice, dude.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, guys, I think that we've ran the course, and I appreciate from the bottom of my heart, Danny and Kent. I think that this could be the best episode we've ever done. I've had a great time, Kent. Your expertise and your technical outlook on things is fabulous. I really appreciate that. Danny, as always, Danny can be found on Danny Pena BMX Racing on YouTube. Go check him out. He reviews races. He reviews magazines. Very insightful stuff. And me, I'm just here for the looks. I'm the TV. I don't know nothing, and I just send out emails. But thank you very much, everybody, for stopping by. If you'd like to support the podcast, check out BMXPERTSPodcast.com. You can grab a hat or a shirt or something if you want to help me out. If not, no problem. Danny Pena and I will be at Dirty Fest broadcasting. Maybe together, maybe separate. We will be there interviewing and getting to know people at Dirty Fest. So if you see us, feel free to stop by and don't throw any punches. Just say hi. Thank you very much, everyone, for stopping by. Appreciate it. And if it wasn't for Kent and it wasn't for people like Danny and Kent, I wouldn't be able to do what I do. So I want to appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Until next week, any parting shots, guys? You want to say anything goodbye?
Like and subscribe, man. You know where I'm at. I need to catch Kevin. It's my goal to pass this dude in subscribers.
All right, Kent. All right, I appreciate it. Let's go eat some. Well, Kent can go eat dinner. Now we're going back to back with John Salami on the next episode. We'll drop it and maybe a week apart. Thank you so much. Appreciate it, everybody. We'll see you next time.
See you guys.